Thank you. Yeah, so that was just programmed drum track and a bass track that my engineer threw down. There's no rhythm guitar now, so it's a little hard to follow along. Did that sound like Mr. Scary to you? Yeah, but it doesn't have, on the record, there's like 19 guitars. That was just one guitar right now. So it's without the rhythm, it's impossible to play both parts, or, huh? Yeah, was okay. Well, I don't want to do that to you. All right, what else do we got here? You guys want some more dock and stuff? Don't have In My Dreams. I got Into the Fire, Kiss of Death. Nail, When Heaven Comes Down, Wicked Sensation. I hadn't played that one in a while. All right. Let me try something I know. Sorry about that. These backing tracks can be different arrangements than what we actually do live. And I haven't done this in a while. Okay, let's see. What else we got here? Yeah, just working it out, dude. I'm not totally in the groove here at all. I just got to tell you. I don't know why. I think it's because I drove 3 hours and I'm old. All right. Let's see what else. Try to take a little different turn here. See if I can find my other stuff. This isn't Dawkins stuff. This is other stuff. Called, otherwise known as KXM. But I get it. Yeah, we don't even remember it. It's a hard thing to do. Okay, so here we go. This one. Maybe some, well, I don't know about that one. Yeah, that's something off of a little I think it was like an EP I did or something. It was really off the radar. But anyways, one of those love projects that never really saw the light of day. But we know what that's like, right? It's always the stuff that matters. Okay, so I'm going to take a slight break here just to answer some questions. You guys have, you must have some questions, I'm sure, right? Speak loud because we don't have the guy holding the mic like on the...
I got a great question, and since you're the guitar god that you are, we were wondering if we would like...
After that performance, you can honestly just sit there and say something like, that's ridiculous. I am not worthy, my friend, but go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, I would love, and I think everybody else would love to see, they do this G3 and G4 tour with Satriani and Petrucci, and you should definitely...
I'm texting my agent as we speak. G3 to... You think, right, it would be a fit, but it's just like, you know, if you don't get the call, you don't get the call.
I think we need to
I don't know.
because you definitely deserve to be there, especially with Satch.
Yeah. I don't know. Thank you. I don't know if it's a matter of deserving, though. You know what I mean? It's really about, and I don't want to get wonky, but it's really about your power in the marketplace, because we do live in a capitalistic system, and that's, you know, money talks. So if maybe I'm not that guy, I'm not really, you know, I just kind of bury myself in what I do, just like we all do. You know, we all have, this is my job, you know. I go to work, and this is what I love to do. Unfortunately, I have a job that I love. Hopefully, you all do too. No matter what it is, it doesn't really matter whether it's making widgets or you're the milkman or you're a guitar player or whatever. It's just work. You know, I support my kids, support my family, and I'm just passionate about what I do. So I do it whether I get paid or not. But the business part of it, a lot of me and my fellow musicians are really terrible at, because we use a certain side of our brain that's not really good at the other side, which is business, I guess. So that's a whole other thing that I don't really concern myself too much with. And it seems like whenever I've tried sometimes to really methodically, you know, be smart about that part of it, the business, and go after stuff and chase stuff, it hasn't really made anything better. I mean, good stuff comes along just how normal life is, you know. It's up and down, you know, just ride it out. One thing I've learned to do, though, is diversify, because, you know, being in music for as many years as I have, you know, like 40-something years or whatever, you know, as my job. I've seen the ups and downs of, like, in the 90s when you were embarrassed to be called a guitar player and you were embarrassed to play a solo on a song. Like, when it gets to the middle of the song that you wrote, normally, this is where I play my guitar solo in the 80s. But not in the 90s. Play one note, put a bunch of effect on it or something, and make it only about 10 seconds long, and then get back to the song, like Nirvana. And I'm like, oh. I love Nirvana, but, you know, it was a weird period for me, and I had to learn to diversify. And I know this isn't part of your question, but maybe anticipating some other questions out there. But I think it's something worth being said, that I'd say that would be my one actually piece of advice if there's any guys out here that are, you know, thinking of getting into it, if any younger kids out here thinking of getting into the business, that would be the one piece of advice I'd give them, is to be a Renaissance man. You know, be Michelangelo. Do it all. You know, so build guitars, be an engineer, be an accountant, be an agent, be a manager, be a songwriter, a composer, be a guitar player, obviously. Be every kind of guitar player. Play other instruments, you know, but know the business. You know, know publishing. Get outside the business, you know. Know everything about the gear. And guess what? Then you get an endorsement. And guess what? Then you design, develop, and help market gear. And you get paid again. I'm doing ESP clinics. It's part of my job. I love doing it, but it's still part of my job. You know what I'm saying? So there's something to be said for that. I mean, for instance, I'll tell you a story. I live very close to Zach Wild. And Zach Wild are, you know, we're friends and everything, but and he told me once, we were at a studio in Hollywood, Henson Studios, and we were working, and he was in the other room, and he goes, you know, George, you know how he is. He's all like how he talks, everything. He's telling me how it is. And he goes, you know, you endorse this and you endorse that. You know, you're basically a gear whore. And me, you know, I have a Les Paul and a Marshall, and that's how it'll always be until the day I die. I wish I had those words written in stone, because he, you know, look what he does. He's got his own guitar picks, his own guitar strings, his own, 9 pedals, amps, guitars, straps, whatever, you name it. And I'm not saying that to say anything derogatory. I'm saying that that's the nature of the business. I mean, you have to do that. I mean, he was being a purist. But you know what? Musicians are supposed to be purists for some reason. And people get down on us when we do things to survive and make money and treat it like a job. And it really what it is. Like, I don't see any plumbers going, I don't pull those kind of turds out of toilets. I just, I'm not that kind of a plumber. I was like, damn, dude, it's just, I don't know. It's okay to be compensated for expending and trading energy, because that's all our economic system is. And I don't mean to get into another tangent here, but I'm giving you something of value, just like bartering, that you agree is worth what you're giving me in exchange, and that's all it is, and that's okay. And I run into that a lot. I've actually had people call me up over the years and ask me, which is another thing I do. I play sessions on other records, even private records. For instance, we call them vanity records. So let's say you're a fledgling guitar player, you don't have a record deal, you don't really go on tour, nobody kind of knows who you are except, your circle of friends and your family, but you want to make a record just for your own reasons, right? And you're going to spend your own money. And maybe you want to have George Lynch playing your record, right? And you'll be putting George Lynch's name and likeness on there. And right, bust out your wallets, there'll be a line forming over here after the clinic. No, I take square, by the way, yeah. No, I'm trying to explain something. So what would happen is I'd occasionally have people ask me to play on their records. I charge them. Obviously, I need to. But I've had people argue with me when they were asking me to do this, and they say, and they'll ask me how much, and I'll tell them, and they'll get offended. And they'll say, wait a minute, how long does it take you to play a solo on my record? I'm like, look, first of all, I don't have to defend myself or justify myself. But secondly, it took me 50 years to get here. It was right. It's not the 2 hours, 3 hours in my studio, which, by the way, cost me $175,000 to build, and I built a lot of it with my bare hands. I put up the walls, I put the floors in myself. You know what I'm saying? Put all the insulation in myself. Then I had to go to work to buy the equipment that goes in the studio. Then I have to pay an engineer to help me run it, and again, living in my car 40 years ago, dreaming of being a rock star, having every shitty job on the planet, I mean, literally, working in factories, just driving liquor trucks in the hood, in the ghetto, getting shot at and beat up, to make a living so that I could continue to subsidize my music. That's why you're paying me X amount of dollars, not because it takes me 3 hours to go like this over your record. And if that isn't worth it, then I'm sorry, So I'm constantly I'm running into this I've run into this all my life, this kind of feeling among the general public, and I think there's this kind of feeling towards, let's say, actors as well, and maybe even sports figures. But I got to say, out of those three, musicians work the hardest. And not always. There are lazy musicians, and there are actors that work tremendously hard. But I would just guess that if you spent a day in an average musician's shoes, touring, writing, recording, you would not believe what's involved. Somebody needs to make a movie. And I'm very proud of that fact. Because I'm kind of hard. To me, I was raised with work is love ethic. Parents were, came out of the Depression, and you never throw anything away, you never waste food. Everything gets used, and you work really freaking hard. And that's just the way I'm built, and that goes into my music. That's why I've got 5 records coming out in the next 12 months. Because I don't stop, dude. I'm a machine. Yeah. And I'm proud of that fact. And I try to convey that to my children. Now, I'm pathologically, I work pathologically hard, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. So, but what I do try to convey is to be honest with your work ethic, meaning, make sure that you're not being disingenuous to yourself and the people that you're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, I put out a record for you, I'm going to make sure when you put it on, I'm pretty damn sure you're going to thank me. Like, this isn't something I'm going to shove down your throat and try to sell you like a used car salesman. This is something that you're going to want to search out, and you're going to love it, and you're going to be, man, I'm sure glad that this kind of music exists. And I'm not just saying my music, but other people that we all love their music. These aren't products like widgets. These are music. Music is a spiritual thing. Can you imagine the world without music? And it's an intangible, mysterious thing that makes life worth living sometimes, especially times like this, which I won't get into. But yeah, and music can also be a force, tremendous force for good outside of the personal realm, in the realm of managing ourselves as human beings on this planet, which is pretty primarily political. It can change policy. It can change the world. It could end wars. It could help us to treat each other better. And that's what I grew up with in the 60s and the early 70s. That's what music was, a lot of it, And it's, I'm sure, still has always been. I mean, Neil Young is still there. Tom Morello's still here. There's a lot of young bands, metal bands talking about what we need to talk about and being advocates for truth and justice and, those sorts of things. But there needs to be more of that, and I miss that in music, where the music was a vehicle for a very powerful message that can change things for the good. And so I try to be aware of that, and I'm actually very passionate about that in my music. My problem is I am not a lyricist, and to convey that outside of the realm of guitar is very difficult for me, because when I sit down with a pen, put pen to paper, I'm not a poet like Oni Logan is, or Bob Dylan, or Neil Young, or other people I've worked with that are very gifted. I don't have that. I'm not that guitar player that can sing, and I can't really write lyrics, except for once in my life I had a flash of inspiration and wrote the lyrics to a double album called Shadow Train. Until there is justice, there will be no truth. I wrote the lyrics to that record and all the melodies, and I don't know why. It just, like, it wasn't even me writing. It just I never slept. I stayed up for 2 weeks and basically I was sort of a vessel. It was sort of it came through me. I don't want to make it sound like it was this kind of magical spiritual thing, but I honestly don't know where it came from. And right after that, I couldn't write another lyric. So that record for me is one of my personal favorite albums, not because instrumentally or because I played some, fast guitar solo or something silly, but because the music to me was very, very important as far as the message and what was behind it. It was really inspired piece of work that means a lot just to me personally. The whole rest of the world doesn't need to know. I wish they did, because I think it's important that they know. But there will be a film. Man, you asked one question. I just don't know how to shut up, dude. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to say one more thing. There's going to be a film called Shadow Nation that I've been working on for 8 years, documentary about Native Americans and music. Very political film, and that's coming out hopefully next year, 2018. Finally. It might just be kind of a Netflix thing. You may be able to buy a CD online or something but it will be out in some shape or form next year, and I hope you guys get a chance to watch that if it becomes available. Okay, so we're going to be here a while if my answers take that long. I'll shut up. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, sir. Well, I got to say, I don't know all the names of all the bands and all the singers and everybody that's out there, but I got to say the level of the ability of vocalists that's kind of out there now is so off the charts compared to when I was growing up and when I was even going through my formative band stages and even into the 80s. There just wasn't that many people out there that could do that kind of stuff. And now you watch The Voice, and it's like, holy shit. Did you guys watch the, what was it called, the Global Citizens concert the other night from Central Park with Green Day and Stevie Wonder? Yeah, there was some wonderful black lady sing. She was like a kind of a Billie Holiday clone, really. I wouldn't say that's not very fair. Kind of like Billie Holiday on steroids. She was unbelievable. She could sing anything. I mean, I don't care if you're a rock singer, you're a blues singer, you're a jazz singer. I mean, it literally brought tears to my eyes. It was unbelievable, you know, and just the level of singing ability now, even young kids, my kids, and they're just busting this stuff out, and, you know, it sounds like they're old blues singers or something in a pop context. It's like incredible. So I couldn't, you know, if you'd asked me that question 10 years ago, I would have said Glenn Hughes or Paul Rogers, but now there's a whole generation of guys that are, and girls that are just beyond that, you know. So, you know, my thing for singers is I like it greasy. I like it. It's got to be blues based, and technique as well, but the technique not overshadowing the emotion. You know, it's all got to come from the heart. That's what I like. And we all like that, right? So, you know, that's what I've kind of gravitated towards. I mean, after Dokken, which was kind of one of the whitest rock bands in human existence, I mean, you know, I tried to change that a little bit. That was my thing, is I tried to make it a little greasier and a little browner and a little bluesier. I really, Lynch Mob was kind of a throwback to that. So I found Oni, you know, and when I heard Oni the first time, it literally gave me goosebumps. And I was like, at that period of time, that was the closest thing to that ideal singer that I was hearing in my, you know, that imaginary band in my head with that world's greatest voice. Because I'm the world's greatest singer in my own head, by the way. I really am. I hear it all. It's all up there. I mean, you know, I'm Aretha Franklin up here. It's just when I open my mouth and it all falls apart. But someday I need to take vocal lessons, you know. But I can cut out the middleman, right? Robert Mason is a machine. Yeah, he is a machine. We're doing a record together right now, actually, called, don't laugh at me, I didn't come up with the name, I was against it. We're called Super Stroker. No, Super Stroke, I'm sorry, not Super, thank God. Oh. I mean, Sweet Lynch, Super Stroker, what the hell's going on here? I sense a pattern. Anyways, it's called Super Stroke, excuse me. Actually, I just got a text message right before I walked in here, a group text from Mick Brown, Jeff Pilson, and Robert Mason saying, guys, we have to decide today if we were going to call the band Super Stroke. And I'm like, guys, we're in our 50s and 60s. Think of the visual there. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Super Stroker. I mean, that's not going to be pretty. Let's not do that to ourselves. So they all love it, and I don't. So, you know, check in with me, and tomorrow I'll let you know what happens. If you guys have any suggestions for a better name, which would be just about anything, it's not, you know what related. Yeah, so that's a record that will be coming out next year. Not sure what it's going to be called, but and that's Dokken without Dawn with the singer from Warrant. 9 of the songs are written. I've got to get back home in November. Jeff and I are going to finish the last 2 songs, do some more solos, and finish the vocals. And that'll come out. I know you didn't ask this question, but I just wanted to get this out there. I've got a couple other projects coming out, which maybe many of you are aware of. The next one coming out is the second Sweet and Lynch record, another project I'm involved in with a really stupid name. But it's a good record, very much like the first one with Michael Sweet from Stryper and myself. This one is a concept record. He represents the supposedly angelic good side of the saint, and I'm the other side of the argument, which I believe is the saint. But so it's saints and saints instead of saints and sinners. But it's a instrumentally very good record. Brian Tichy on it, I believe, is the greatest greatest straight up rock drummer on the planet alive right now. This guy's a monster. James Lomenzo on bass from not Creedence Clearwater, but the singer from Creed, what's his name? John Fogerty. John Fogerty's band. So that record will be coming out in November. Shortly after that, I've got a record coming out called Ultraphonics, which is myself and Corey Glover from Living Colour, the bass player and drummer from War and Tower of Power. And it's a trippy album, as you would expect, just by listing the people that are on it. It's funk, it's heavy funk rock, but it's got a whole other side to it too. That's very kind of a little challenging, but fun to listen to. Yeah. So kind of go outside quite a bit on this one. Then after that, let's see what's coming out after that. I got a project called The Banishment, which is an industrial project I've been working on about 6 years with Tommy Victor from Prong. Yeah, and that's very heavy and also trippy as well. I've got a Dokken live album and DVD with a new studio song on it, which is really a cool song, great song. And then we also have a Lynch Mob live DVD and live album coming out with a new studio song as well. I'm probably forgetting something, but that's enough, right? Yeah. What am I forgetting?
Will there be another TNN?
No, because Jeff and I are doing the band that I just mentioned. I don't want to say the name again because it's embarrassing. Yeah. Super Stroker. And, you know, it's TNN, it's LP, it's the same. Jeff and I get together, we write the same stuff every time. You know, we call it something else, but it's just him and I. He lives about 4 or 5 miles from me. He's got a fantastic studio. He's got better guitar gear than I got. And literally, I mean, he really does. And we're both gear nuts. So we spend a lot of time together when we're not on the road. And you know, we'd write and record if we had a reason to or not, because we just love working with each other. We love each other as brothers. And we have a chemistry. I mean, we were the Dokken chemistry. I mean, the whole band was, but I mean, really, the nucleus of it was Jeff and I writing all those records. Basically, when everybody was out, not even around, we were the ones with the little X15 cassette tape recorder and the little primitive drum machine and my Rockman X100. And that's it. In fact, we love that setup so much we call it Scrotum Sound because we took it on the road, and that's basically what it smelled like in our hotel room after a couple of days of writing. But when we did Under Lock and Key, we insisted on taking that studio, which is what I just described to you, which was portable. We had it in a rack, and we'd wheel it off the bus into we had the roadies put it in every room that we checked into. And we would write, you know, after the show and the next day, days off and stuff. And that's how we'd write the next record. And we brought that whole setup into the studio when we recorded Under Lock and Key. And we hooked it up through the board, and that's how we recorded the album. How crazy is that? And Michael Wagner is tripping. He's just like, you can't. He pushes himself away from the board. He's laughing. He says, you can't use that. I go, yeah, I'm going to use this. This is what we're going to use. And he's just, you know, he's a sweet guy. And he's like, okay, rolls his eyes, you know. And he's like, puts it up, and he goes, that's what you want? I go, yeah. And, you know, and we worked on it. And that's what Under Lock and Key was. It was basically, we recorded the way we record our demo tapes, which, you know, to me is the best sounding Dokken album. You know, it's kind of 80s sounding, but still, it's cool. It's big sounding. So, right? Well, the 80s are coming back, by the way. I don't know if you got the memo. 2080. Yeah. Like 60 years to go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play. I got to get up at 5:30 tomorrow, so I got to play another song, and then we're gonna call it a day. How's that? Anybody got any, like, important questions I can give a short answer to? Short answer questions. Yeah.
Hi, George.
Hi. How are you?
My question is this. I know you're a vintage guy. You like using a real cable, vintage amps, all these sorts of things. What's your take on the modern wireless systems and modeling?
I haven't used a wireless system since 1988. I've never tried one. I haven't tried one since then. I'm sure they're wonderful, but I'm like, why do I want to spend 40 times more than a cable to maybe sound as good as a cable? I don't get that rationale. Because somebody needs the money? Like, I haven't tripped in a while. I mean, the one time I tripped really bad on stage, I mean, not the acid trip kind, but that was that too, but I was on a wireless. And I was standing, sometimes I get excited back in the day, you're playing for big stadium crowds or something, it was Monsters of Rock, and I was standing in front of the monitor instead of this side of the monitor. There's the crowd, right? And it was just, it was a perfect storm of accidents. So I used to wear like a lot of hairspray, and it was real sticky, right? And I had these really lightweight earrings in that were really long, and I had all these chains that was a collection of about 20 chains, right? And it was just this big mess that just was all tangled, and I just clip it on every night, and I go out and play, right? Well, I was going like this, I was shaking my head back and forth, and the earrings stuck to my Carmex on my lips. And I went like this, and then I flicked my head up, and the chains caught in my hair. So then I couldn't see. So then I went to back up, and I tripped over the monitor, which was behind me. So I rolled, and I fell into my back line, which was 3 stacks high, which fell on me. Okay, that's with a wireless. Yeah, so the cord wasn't the problem. Yeah, that happened. Oh, and then I busted my pants out. Yeah. And my roadie, my tech, he had to fix it. I mean, you know, this is a stadium gig. There's all these, maybe this was an arena gig, but whatever. There's thousands of people, and I couldn't stop. So I went over to him, and he's looking at me, and my pants are busted open. These are, back in the day, were really tight pants, right? You know, there's nothing under it. So I'm completely, exposed, and I'm like, you got to fix this. And I'm still playing. He's going, what do you want me to do? I go, I don't know. So he grabbed a roll of duct tape and got on his knees and went to work. Yeah. That man is now president and CEO of ESP Guitars. His name is Matt Mauciandaro. There's somebody here from ESP, right? Who's here from ESP? Where is he? Okay, so you know Matt. You know I'm not lying, right? Matt was my guitar roadie for 8 years in Dockin. And he was the world's worst guitar roadie. As he played one thing on guitar. A. He played an A chord. Couldn't play Stairway to Heaven. Didn't play anything. And he would always give me my guitar accidentally with the pick in the strings. So I go out to do, start with Kiss of Death, and it was going clank, 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 clank. I'm like, what the hell? I should fire this guy, And then the other thing he did was he knew so little about amplifiers that he would plug one speaker cabinet into the other speaker cabinet, not into the amp. Yeah, he was a terrible guitar roadie, but a really great guy, and he's the president of ESP now. And, godfather to some of my children, and best man at all my weddings. Yeah, he's a great guy. All right, so let's see. Wait a minute. Thank you guys very, very much for being patient. And I hope I'll see you soon. We'll be back in February. So come out and see us again, okay? All right. Thank you guys.